Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your patience, and thank you for taking the time out of your demanding day to show interest in participating in the Governmental Relations Advisory. We know that some of you have shown a great deal of support to the school district in the past, and we do appreciate that. And we see some newcomers, and we thank you for showing your interest to support us in our commitment to high performance. And we're so proud of our superintendent, our new leader, who is out in the trenches. Some of you have been to a few meetings, and certainly, I'm sure, you've been exposed to the exciting things that's happening in our school district. But today is just another opportunity, as you have expressed, to participate in the Governmental Relations Advisory, to hear more ways that you can support our school system and our superintendent. So without further delay, I welcome to the podium Dr. Morcease J. Beasley, our Superintendent of Schools.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to hold this mic so I won't have to stand in one spot. It's kind of hard to stand in one spot. Thank you all for being here on the day. I know it's a beautiful day, isn't it? I love this fall, and I know you're all very busy, so we're going to get started. It's good to see the familiar faces and some new faces. So what I'd like to do is give everyone a chance to introduce yourself and share. If you're representing a city or county government, please let us know. And really the purpose of this advisory is to ensure that we as a school system are basically working with our county and city governments to ensure that we're moving our county, our school system in the right direction. We realize that we can't do it by ourselves, that we need the cooperation and the collaboration of all of the governments, city and county, in our county. We'd like to be able to use this platform as an opportunity to share what's working, what we're doing, what's not working. If you have concerns relative to various issues or concerns that you believe you all are addressing that may possibly be caused by some of our customers. We want to be able to hear that from you, and so we can work to mitigate any of the challenges, etc. But I think as an advisory, it's most important and appropriate for us to have an honest dialogue and engagement where we're sharing ideas, we're thinking through strategy together to move our school system forward. Because as our school system improves, the county will what? Improve. And that's my commitment. So what I'd like to do, we'll start over here to my left. Introduce yourself and tell us if you're in a city or county government or whatever role you're in.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My name is Tori Grant, and I am a proud citizen resident of Clayton County. I have two boys one that's actually almost done, and another one that's at M.D. Roberts Middle School. So I'm very involved from elementary school all the way through, and I'm committed to that. My role, I actually am employed with the FDIC, and I'm in community affairs, so therefore I wanted to make certain that if there was anything that we could possibly do or anything that I could take back to my corporation, I am here to be that advocate for Clayton County.
That's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp?
That is correct.
Good afternoon. My name is Angela Redding, and I work for the City of Forest Park. And I am the proud mother of a daughter who is a 2015 honor graduate of Drew High School, and now she's a junior on the dean list at the University of West Georgia. And I have always been committed to the school system, and I support in every way that I can, and I plan to continue to do that because in order to move the county forward, in order to move the school system forward, we all have to work together as one. And so it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Virginia Cheney, and I'm a teacher at Unidos Dual Language School. And I signed up for this because I think that our superintendent is doing a lot of positive things, and so I'm happy to serve. And the school is in Forest Park.
Very good. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Donna Jenkins. My father is a resident of Clayton County, and he actually was in Clayton County school system as a student. I lived in Clayton County for several years, but most of my educational experience has been in the city of Atlanta. Although I was raised a lot in Clayton County, I am an operations manager for Active Youth Academy, which is an enrichment service provider, and I want to make sure I give back to the community of Clayton County where I was raised as well through my organization. So I'm here to see what needs you have in your organization as well.
My name is Sandra Motry, and this is my second meeting, and I have to say that I am glad to be here at this one too. I am a parent of a student in Clayton County, but she is a freshman now at Howard University. And I do work with my Commissioner Hambrick and my Miss Goria that's on the school board. And as I hear your mission from the different meetings I've gone to, I do believe in giving back to the community, and I do feel like Clayton County is a great place to live, but we do have to develop ambassadors to get the word out. And that will come from developing student ambassadors, parent ambassadors, and community members to spread the good word about Clayton County schools. And when we have dynamite schools, we have a dynamite community to live in. That's right. So I'm here to serve in any way I can.
Very good, thank you. Well, thank you all. Thank you for being here again. So let's go ahead and get started.
My name is Ola Kimball. I'm the Executive Administrative Assistant to Mr. Wendell Spiva. He is the Chief of the Communications, Engagement, long title, so Engagement, Government Relations, and Partnerships Department for the Public School District.
Thank you. All right, so let's get started. Does everyone have a visual here? We're going to make a little visual to keep it a little easy for me to stay on point. I'll share, you've heard, if you've been in any other session, you've heard this before. That's okay. For those of you that are coming for the first time, it's important for you to hear this as well. As we work to improve our school system, we've identified 5 areas of focus. So if you will, just look at the visual that Jada has provided to you, and I'll make sure everyone knows Jada.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jada Dawkins, Chief of Communications, Clayton County Public Schools.
Hey everyone, I'm Ronald Shields. I'm the Communications Specialist for Clayton County Public Schools.
Has a little bug. Mr. Patrick Moore, our studio manager, and Mr. Charles White, our communications coordinator, and Ms. Nikki Frazier, who most of you receive emails as well from as my executive assistant. So we have our team here today and happy to be of service to you.
Very good, thank you. And so if you look at the visual, in the center, clearly you have our students, a representation of our students. But surrounding our students, you have 5 areas of focus, and I'll start with the one at the top. The first one is academically challenging and safe environments. That one really speaks to the instructional environment, ensuring that the quality of instruction is where it ought to be, and that our schools are safe, our classrooms are safe. And so from that circle, you'll see high impact in-school practices. That should be instructional practices. So Jada made that correction, I didn't see that. But that should be instructional practices. And we're working to make sure that in every classroom, every teacher is really ensuring that their instruction is appropriate for the level that students need to perform on. We shouldn't be surprised if we've got too many students performing at a low level if instruction is at a low level. And so my work has always been, you don't improve outcomes unless you improve instruction. And that's just a principle that I've adhered to for many years. You improve instruction, you'll improve outcomes. And so that's what we're working to do there. Relative to a safe environment, this year we have implemented a tip line in case students feel like they're bullied or they have some personal issues that they want to acknowledge and they want to receive assistance with. There's a tip line. It can be anonymous. They can leave their names. It's a part of the app. If you have the school district app, if you don't, you should download it. They can submit it. It goes straight to the school's SRO. It comes to our safety and security department, so we can monitor it. And then the SRO works with the principal and others to address whatever issue exists. So this is our way of trying to help create a safe and positive environment. We also, of course, have our student code of conduct this year. We've revised it some. We've tightened up on our attendance policy, and we're working next year to even enhance it even more, because we want to ensure that we convey in all of our schools high expectations. High expectations. We want our students to come to school, we want them to behave well, and we want them to learn well. And we know that all of that has to work in concert. And so as you go to the green circle, the next thing is academic and wraparound support. What does that mean? We've got quite a few students who are not reading on grade level and doing math on grade level. So we are providing, as you can see there, ELA and math interventions. We're working to identify one tool this year. In the next few weeks or days, we'll be making a recommendation to the board, and I'm hopeful that they'll approve it. A reading and math tool for K-8 and one for high school students that will allow them to work on some deficits that they have, so we can close the gaps, the content gaps that they may have, the skill gaps that they may have. Our goal is to have that tool in place by January, so while the teachers are teaching in the class, the kids can be working at home on this online tool. They can be doing it before school, after school, during the school day, if they have access to lab and additional increased time to do so, on weekends, etc., that we believe is going to help us flip our data. Instead of the majority of our kids performing at the two lowest levels, we'll have the majority of our kids performing at the two highest levels. And so we believe that we will see a shifting in our data over time, with this year being one of those years that we will start to see a shifting in the data. Clearly, we're providing support services and counseling. Sometimes kids deal with things that happen sometimes out of the classroom, at home, and it impacts how they're learning in the classroom. It could be poverty issues, it could be lack of health care, it could be sometimes they don't have eyeglasses because mom and dad or whatever family doesn't have vision insurance. And so we're working to ensure that those are not hindrances for our students, that we have resources within our community. We're trying to make sure we mobilize those resources to ensure that kids get what they need in order for them to go into the classroom and learn at their highest level. We're also working to address social emotional learning and restorative justice. That's kind of related to the discipline piece. We've got a lot of kids who are just dealing with some issues, and we want, as adults, we want the adults to respond appropriately, understand sometimes that students' behavior is not anything personal against them, but they're responding because of other issues and other variables that are at play. So we're working to ensure that we address adults, teach adults what's going on, how to respond, but we're also working with the students to ensure that they know how to deal with their own feelings and their own issues, and they have those resilience and coping skills. You know, life is not perfect, things are gonna happen, but you can't go off every time something happens. You know, you can't decide to just flip all the desk over in the classroom because you're having a bad day. And so we've got to teach our students how to basically deal with their own emotions and their feelings. And then again, restorative justice would be basically, you know, we got to get away from this response where we're just penalizing and over-penalizing kids for silly behavior, when we really just need to help kids make better choices and help them to understand the consequences of their choices or the ramifications of their choices, and to develop in them the skills that they need to make good choices. And so we're working to ensure that we as adults address our children the way we would want to be addressed. That just because they make a mistake, that doesn't mean that they should be penalized the rest of their lives or the rest of their K-12 educational careers. We as adults wouldn't like that, so why are we doing it to children? And so that's work that we're doing. Going on around to the third circle, professional development. Just ensuring that we as employees are at the top of our game, that teachers have a depth of content, that they know their content, that they know pedagogy, and that our school leaders are effective school leaders. We know that if schools are going to improve, they've got to have effective school leaders, principals. And so our work is to ensure we train them up to be effective, efficient, and to produce the results that we expect to see within all of our schools. The next circle is family and community engagement, government relations and partnerships. Basically, getting the community engaged and involved, a part of the work that's going on in our schools, informed, allowing them an opportunity or the platform to share what they think is working, what they think may need to be improved upon, and using that feedback to just make better decisions for our children, all of our children, to really move the district fundamentally in a positive, better direction. That includes also superintendent advisories, and this being one of those advisories. We just want to be able to engage and give those who are in various roles and who have a commitment to see our children achieve higher levels of performance an opportunity to share, to hear what we're doing, maybe give us feedback, so we as employees, as a superintendent and senior team and principals, so we can do a better job at ensuring that this is a high-performing school system. And then, of course, we've got the partnerships, mentoring, et cetera. We're working to ensure that all of our schools have partners, that we have some district-level partnership initiatives, and that we're expanding the opportunity for our students to be mentored throughout the school system. Met today with Clayton State, and so we're looking at working to expand the number of students who can come and not just tutor, but also mentor our students. And so we're looking even to companies and corporations to work and avail themselves to even mentor our students. And so we have the system-wide mentoring program, and that we're ready to just plug in mentors throughout the district at the various schools. And then lastly, the last circle is the communications, public relations, and marketing piece, where we're basically making sure that we share the good news about our school system. We're making sure that we're consistent in the messaging. We're using the various platforms that are available to get the word out there so parents and others will have the opportunity to be engaged. And then we're ensuring that our parents, if they have children, or parents should have children in schools, they should be going to our student information system, Infinite Campus, to check grades. So since I know all parents are doing that, I would expect them to be able to read the announcements that we place in there as well. So we're coordinating all district level announcements through that platform so people can be informed. And so we're seeing an uptick of parents who are going into the platform. First of all, they should be, regardless of whether announcements are in there or not, to check their students' grades. But while they're in there checking grades, now they can take time to read information about what's going on, what opportunities exist, updates, etc., that I think will be helpful for them as parents. But our goal is to just fundamentally move our district in the right direction, to create a culture of high performance. And that will not happen without us working together as a community. People being engaged, the superintendent being one who listens, others being those who share, not only share, but all of us putting our hands to the plow and working together for the betterment, the improvement of our school system. And that's really what the advisories are all about. It gives us a platform to work together toward improving things for our students. Just a few things that are new this year. You should know, we want you to know, we are implementing some very innovative career pathways in all of our high schools. But this year in particular, we're implementing the firefighter EMT pathways at Drew High School and Mundy's Mill High School. So we're so pleased that we have young people right now who are being trained to be firefighters and EMTs. And they'll be able to leave high school and walk right into a $40,000 job and higher, because if they can, when you're a firefighter, you work so many days on and off. That means they can pick up jobs on the other days that they're off. And that's a good thing, isn't it? And so we're working to do that. We are implementing at Mundy's Mill High School a new film and theater academy this year, connecting our students to the film industry that's booming here in the state of Georgia. So we're very proud of that. This year is the planning year. Next year is the implementation year. We're doing 2 aviation programs, one at North Clayton High School and one at Morrow High School. And that aviation will allow students to learn foundational information if they want to go into flight or if they want to go into mechanics. And, some kids don't want to fly airplanes. They just want to fix it. So or fix them. So we're working to ensure that our kids have options in that regard. As we currently, in our current SPLOS program, where this is SPLOS 5 that we're in, we've got 2 more years to go. We're going to make some HVAC improvements next summer so we can start school a little cooler in August. Some of the buildings that we've had some consistent issues with, hopefully, the goal is for them not to be as hot when we start school in August of next year. But we'll bring closure to the current projects that we have, and part of this SPLOS 5 will begin the build-up, tear-down of the current Jonesboro High School. And so they'll be getting a new high school, and we're going to begin design for a new Morrow High School, which will be built in SPLOS 6. So in SPLOS 6, we'll continue with Jonesboro High School to finish it out. We'll build up the new Morrow High School, and we're looking at either North Clayton High or Forest Park Middle School, one or the other. We're kind of trying to figure out which one we got to do. We're thinking we may have to do Forest Park because the airport is considering a 6 runway. We don't know what we'll be able to do with that area until that's all figured out. So we don't want to put the cart before the horse, do we? And so we're thinking we may have to do Forest Park in SPLOS 6, and then once the airport decides on that 6 runway, then we'll be ready to do something with North Clayton High School in SPLOS 7. We're looking at a college and career academy in SPLOS 6, which we'll have some innovative programs there that I think the community, it will be a magnet to draw families and others to our community and clearly to prepare our students for the jobs and careers that will be available in our region. And so we're excited about that. And I will just tell you, while by law, as a superintendent, as an employee, I can't tell you that you should vote yes. I will tell you I would wish you would vote yes, but I can't tell you to vote yes. I know I'll vote yes because I think a penny is not much to give to ensure that our children have access to the best facilities. And I would hope that our district has shown at least what I have seen is I've seen just great facilities that have come from the current SPLOS projects, and I want that to continue because our children deserve good facilities, don't they? And I know that we'll have higher levels of performance. We're preparing to release even our new state report cards next week, and we're noticing significant improvements across the board. So we know that we're going to continue to go in the right direction. So all of our work, even last year, is paying off. And so again, while I can't tell you how to vote, I will need, and I will ask you to get the word out there and support, if you can, the work. Because someone said, well, what if we don't vote for it? What are you going to do? I said, nothing. I don't have any other options. So all the ideas and things that I just shared wouldn't get done. Because they said, well, use the property taxes. Well, no, the property taxes, for the most part, pay the salaries. You can't do that. That's why districts across the state use SPLOS, because they know that there are no other revenues for capital improvement projects. So I share that to say, to keep you informed, to let you know what we're working on, and we're trying to, again, just establish some coherence and build on the momentum and move our system in the right direction. I think I may have shared everything that I need to share right now. Oh, I'll share this. The students at the high school level, not K-8, but at the high school level, they want me to have some conversations, and I knew it would happen, about the uniform. They want to have some, so we are working to engage them as to their thoughts about the current uniform and dress standards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I told them I'm going to put them all to work. They think it's just a matter of me saying what the policy is. I'm going to put the young people to work. They're going to help me write the policy, and that we're going to recommend to the board. because it impacts them, doesn't it? And I think in a democracy, it's not what policy people do to you or you shouldn't allow people to do to you, it's what you allow to happen with you at the table. And so we're going to be engaging our young people in conversations about the current uniform and pros and cons and what they would like to see and what they're willing to ensure that occurs in our schools to ensure that they're safe, but also to ensure that they have the option of wearing some of the clothes they want to wear, I guess. You know, they love their creativity, don't they? And so that will be interesting. That will be I think that will be my second semester conversation. But I'm excited. Everywhere I go, the young people, they have a way of, Mr. Superintendent, Dr. Beasley, we want to talk about uniforms. And so I'm excited to have that conversation with them. So I'll pause to see if you have any thoughts, ideas, concerns that we can share or that we can discuss. Because our goal is to really fundamentally move our district in a positive direction. I think it's important we get the good messages out about our community. That communications, public relations, so important. You know, we're all recruiting. I've shared with various groups. In the last 3 to 5 years, we've carried about 250 vacancies every year. This year, we're down to 70 vacancies. And so we've seen a significant improvement. So now, I know we're recruiting the teachers, but I need now to retain the teachers. Does that make sense? And I tell people, everybody has a role in recruiting and retaining teachers. I have a role as a superintendent to ensure it's a healthy organizational culture, it's a supportive organizational culture, but then we as a community have a responsibility to ensure that positive messages are getting out about our children. Because when graduates and others Google's places to work, you know, they're less inclined to come if all they Google and everything that pops up is something negative, isn't it? They're less inclined to come, and I need people that want to come and teach our children, not run away from our children. We want to attract excellence and quality teachers. And so I think it's important that we as a community ensure that we get positive messages out about our community and our students. And so we're working to do that as well. And it doesn't hurt to just have some positive messages going out about our children and our community. If you look at high-performing districts around the nation, I can assure you they're very selective about what messages they put out about their children. And we need to be just as selective. And so I'm asking the community to help me in that regard, because I don't control all the media, but you know, everybody has their own way of responding to things. But I think it's important. Our children deserve positive messages to go out about them. And when one person cuts up, that doesn't mean, I don't know why sometimes in certain communities, when one person cut up, we judge the whole community. But in other communities, when one person cuts up, that's just that one person. It just depends. And I think we need to change that. Don't judge all of our children as bad or unruly or disrespectful because one child has done that. That was just one child. But most of our children, 99.999% of our children every day do the right thing, come to school, and are good children. And the one who's making the bad decision, more than likely, if you go a little deep, you can figure out why they're doing that. And so we just want to make sure that our children know that we appreciate them and we love them, we support them, and we're going to do our part to ensure that the world knows that our children are good children and our community is a good community to be a part of. Okay, so let's see what you have to say.
One question I have, how are the schools selected for the career paths?
Currently, the schools, the pathways that we currently have, can you pull up the website on your laptop? It's a combination of things. It could be student interest. It could be the certification of the teachers who are currently there. We look at the employment outlook data as well. It could be partnerships that may exist. It could be principals requesting certain programs, so it could be a combination of those things. The current work that we're engaged in now is we're looking at all of the schools to figure out if we have the right programs, and are those programs where the jobs will be in the next few years. And so some programs may be transitioning out while we transition other programs in. The purpose of the College and Career Academy is some programs are so expensive you can't put them at every school. And so you have a central location and you bring the kids from the schools to that one location. And so you leverage the use of that one resource to support several schools. And so that's why we're working in the next SPLOST to develop a College and Career Academy. I just want to show you I should go to the partnership now. We do have some nursing programs, and they are currently working with some of the suburbs at the hospital over there on Upper Riverdale Road. Yeah. Yes. But I think there's an opportunity in our district to get more kids involved and engaged in the health profession. And I think that may be us informing kids. We're starting to use a tool called Youth Science, where kids kind of like an online inventory tool that kids can kind of go and answer a few questions, and it matches their skills and gifts with the careers and professions that are out there. But I think there's an opportunity to ensure that we have more robust partnerships with Southern Regional and other places, and give our kids more opportunity to explore apprentice internships, etc., in those environments.
I heard you say you all have a partnership with Clayton County
State University.
Clayton State University. Are you all open to other universities in the area? For instance, like Park AU?
We are.
And,
we have various relationships, primarily, for dual enrollment purposes, because they're right, Clayton State is right here in our community. It's a little convenient for students to go there. But we also have kids who are doing Upward Bound and other programs. So we're providing transportation to our students to the Upward Bound program. And we have partnerships, grant partnerships with Georgia State. Just today, I just signed a letter of support for another grant opportunity through Georgia Tech and others. So we have many partnerships. They may look different, but we do have many partnerships, and we're working again.
Clark AU has that communication journalism department. So I thought I heard you mention something.
No, I don't know how connected we are currently to Clark Atlanta and their program there, but that's something that we can always have our career technology person to look into. But each career pathway should have what we would call some type of field experience. There should be partners that are there supporting those programs. That's a part of that national certification. They have, in order to achieve national certification, they've got to show that they have a robust partnership. So students, they may be getting classroom experiences as they should, but they should also be getting those field experiences within those various companies and organizations, and we should have those type partnerships.
Because I do that, I know a person that's connected with my AD in that communication.
And you can always make sure if you have a connection, you leave that with us, and we'll get the right people to connect. I don't think we have enough of those types of connections in our school system.
Yeah, whatever's on the screen should be shown.
Right. That's right, it is.
It was.
Okay.
Her original PowerPoint was shown.
Okay, I just was wondering if you...
So it must have went to the screensaver. And it just needs to get off the screensaver and back to the screen. I mean, I would unplug the VGA and plug it back in.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah.
Well, we have all the pathways listed here. Can't get it to project. And we have a booklet that our parents, an online document that we just updated to reflect the aviation pathways, the film and theater, and the firefighter pathway Drew and Monday's Meal. But I'll just give you an example. Like at Drew High School, we have the culinary arts pathway. We have business and technology, financial services, health informatics, law enforcement, and the fight of forensic science and the firefighting pathway. We have sports entertainment, engineering, drafting, and design technology pathway. Then we have the Air Force JROTC pathway at Drew High School. Another example, I'll just share North Clayton. North Clayton, we have the cosmetology pathway. We have the business and technology, food and nutrition pathway, programming, therapeutic services, law enforcement, and that therapeutic services, allied health and medicine pathway, that speaks to that partnership that you were just referring to, law enforcement, marketing, aviation, Air Force pathway there at that location. And so we're currently reviewing all the pathways at all the schools, but you can see you've got a variety, some duplicated at some schools, and you've got some that pathways are unique to some schools. And it's just a combination of things that may result in that.
Will students be able to apply to those different schools? For instance, my child homeschool is North Clayton, but if there is not a pathway, she may be interested, or he may be interested in a pathway at another school. Would they have that opportunity to seek out that pathway?
They can do that now. It just depends on the available seats and space at the school, but they can do that now. So thank you. Ron, somebody know how to do it. I want you to see, make it a little larger.
The superintendent, we were talking to you mentioned about the partnerships that we have. And as being a teacher, one affected our school because the fifth graders were fortunate enough to get their own laptops. And so, and it's the thing where I know as a teacher that everything is online now. And I found out today that the students have access now to the social studies. So I'm just wondering if, I know Clayton County is a very large county, but I'm just wondering if there's any way that we could end up getting students to have more access, to laptops, maybe do a grant or a partnership with
We're working on that. We're studying that issue. That's basically a one-to-one initiative where every kid gets a laptop. I've seen it done, but I hadn't seen it done well enough that it doesn't cause problems. If you don't do it right, you can get the first laptop out, but the kids are going to break laptops. You got to update them, upgrade them, and you want to be able to sustain that. And so we're studying that to see. And sometimes I think in the early laptop era, everybody getting a laptop was the focus, but now we've got a lot of kids who have devices and things of that nature. So we're just trying to figure out the best way to approach that. Then we're working to also address the internet access divide. by trying to see if there's some technology out there. While the kids are at school, they may have access to the internet, but sometimes when they go home, they may not. So what tools can we provide them that will allow them to have some hot spots when they go home so they can still access? And so we're working as a part of our current SPLOS, and then the next SPLOS that we're proposing. We're trying to see if we can come up with some viable options for students. Currently, a lot of schools are purchasing the laptops, and they're using entitlement funds to add on to the number that the district may provide. But I do think it's important that we have a maintenance plan in place, so because if you issue a laptop to a student, eventually somebody's going to drop it, it's going to break. If you don't have a maintenance plan, it just creates a bad image for the school system. You got all these laptops, they can't get upgraded or they can't get fixed, because it gets rather expensive to be replacing that. And that's one of the concerns I have. These companies will offer all these solutions and take all these millions of dollars, and then once the money's gone, they won't come back and help us maintain and fix these laptops. And that's just a concern that we've got to address. So we're just looking at, since a lot of people now are using devices, a lot of the software that the students are using, they can use on their phones. So we're just trying to figure out what's the best way to approach that, and yet be responsible with the funding. Now, like you mentioned, Unidos and Morrow, we'll take Comcast donated those laptops. We are open to donations, even as we purchase our own using our various funding options or sources that we have. But I think systemically, we've got to continue to figure out what approach are we going to take in order to do that one-to-one. What are we really trying to achieve in light of the 21st century skills? Do I have to issue every kid a laptop in order to achieve that if I know that they have iPhones? Or there's some other creative ways. It may be a combination. Some kids can use their iPhones and iPads, and then maybe some kids can be issued a laptop. We're just trying to figure out how to approach it with that. So you can see on the screen the various pathways, and I'll just kind of give you a second to see. It may be a little small. So we're revising this list of pathways offered as we look at every school, look at the employment outlook data projections for this group of students in the next 5 to 10 years, to ensure that we are training students. And of course, I want you to know that every pathway there has a STEM component. So STEM is, you don't necessarily see STEM as separate, but everybody in every pathway, they got to be able to use the technology that's available in that pathway. And then there are some technologies that are appropriate for all pathways, using Microsoft Word, presentation data, some apps, etc. And so, but everybody has a STEM component where we're teaching our kids, how to collaborate, how to be creative, how to, solve problems, how to think critically, etc. And that's integrated in every pathway that you see there. So you can see, like at Lovejoy, we have automotive maintenance and light repair pathway. So we do have some students that clearly are interested in repairing cars and knowing how to service cars. You see that carpentry pathway? That includes not just construction, but plumbing, important, an electrician. All of that is included in that carpentry pathway. And that's at Lovejoy High School. See what we have at Morrow High School, and you can see that number 10, we just added the aviation pathways in the planning year this year for us to have next year. You see Monday's Meal, you've got the audio, video, and film technology pathway there, magnet programming. So our kids really have access to the pathways that they need. I think our work is to ensure that they have a seamless, if you will, experience from K-12. Tonight we're rolling out an initiative, and hopefully if you got the app, you would have seen the announcement. I'm going to go right here to the website. It's called 100 Wonderful Words That Work. And so notice we have, at the high school, we have all the pathways, right? What we decided to do, we thought okay, we needed to do something to help our parents from 0 to 7 get our kids ready for school. And we knew that we needed to focus on words. But what we decided to do was to focus on career-oriented words. And so we developed an activity book that our parents who have children in pre-K and even who are thinking about having children, they'll be able to use with very specific activities in the book that will help develop their vocabulary and help get them acclimated to various careers at a very early age. So as they matriculate K-12, they'll be thinking about careers, and by the time they get to high school, they'll have some awareness as to, even though we have career development lessons that they do at the elementary level, and we have career portfolios and development experiences in the middle school, by the time they get to 9th grade, they should be pretty much immersed in thinking about some type of career. So it's called 100 Wonderful Words That Work Initiative. And if you go out here, there's an interactive workbook, so we need you to spread the word, not just for students who are in our school system today, but parents who may be having children. We want them to go, and so we're working with the pre-K, the daycare providers, to get copies to them so they can get to their parents as well. You know, realizing we're hopeful that one day those children will land in our schools. And so I'll just open the book so you can see it's a PDF, so it may take a little second. But it's a great interactive workbook that the parents can use with some very, I think, some very intelligent, wholesome activities that parents can do with children to get them using vocabulary, speaking the language, thinking about careers as they get older. We're kicking that off tonight, as a matter of fact, in this location right here. But we've got a list, if you get the book, we've got a list of a schedule of activities that we're doing throughout this year to get the word out. So we're kicking it off tonight, but our goal is we're going to even go to some of the housing areas where, you know, sometimes the parents may be real busy and not as involved, coming to this type forum because they got life going on. We're going to go to them to make sure that they're aware, and we'll have sessions, training sessions, etc., that they can hopefully participate in that will help them use this resource. The goal is to, and so we have here, just so you'll see, it's a great workbook. We have goals for the initiative, and there are, all the career clusters are identified, and all the activities are aligned to the career clusters. So I'm going too fast. It's out there. You can go out there now and get it and download it. So again, tonight, is it at 7 o'clock? We'll do the kickoff tonight. Okay. So that's one thing we're trying to do. And we know that some of these things will have long-term impact, but you got to start somewhere, don't you?
I'm just going to mention, it's so great to hear about Jonesboro High School.
Good.
But I have a question. As I stated, I have a son that's at M.D. Roberts Middle School, magnet program there. And that wonderful building, that magnet building that's in the back, what are the plans? What, the direction in terms of how and when are they going to fully utilize that building? Because tax dollars have been paid, and that's 3 years that it's been sitting, and it's kind of.
I'll tell you, we met about that today. And so we will be framing that building up, and that's the location we're considering to move the magnet kids at the K-5 school to that location. So they'll have all the magnet kids in one building. Jackson is a little over capacity, and so we thought if we move the magnet kids, so we're looking at using SPLOST funds to get all of that framed up into classroom space. And so that's one consideration right now to relieve the overcrowding at Jackson Elementary School.
Again, that would be the K through 5 you stated. Mm-hmm. So what about the 6th, 7th, and 8th? Are they just, those that are part of the magnet program, they will still just work within the M.D. Roberts School?
Oh, that's correct. Because even currently, if you go to Indy Roberts, they're not even utilizing all those classrooms there, because it's just that large of a facility. It has its own administrative complex, et cetera. Now, we'll have to work out the lunch arrangements, et cetera. But it's large enough for us to do that, considering the number of students that would be moved from the K-5 location.
Okay. And one other question, since I have the mic. I wanted to know, I know there hasn't been a lot that I've heard lately in reference to drugs and what's going on in our schools. Are there any initiatives planned to push, certain type of drug prevention programs? What exactly is going on?
Well, this year we are implementing, we're going back to the DARE. We're starting at the elementary level. The drug awareness resistant education. So our safety and security, not only have we reallocated some SRO and campus supervisor resource positions at the elementary level, but we're improving our elementary programming relative to safety and security, drug awareness, etc. We're doing some things at the middle school level similarly, and then of course having assemblies, again with our high school students. We are working right now to get our young people engaged in developing some PSAs, public service awareness announcements, where they encourage their own peers to take ownership of their schools and to, do safe, got a tip line, or, not bully, or don't bring weapons to school. So we're addressing those areas, just trying to address them very innovatively by getting young people to take ownership and to contribute and take leadership in helping to improve the culture at their school. But you'll see, and you should see even now, more elementary programming that over time we believe will impact the behavior and the choices that our students are making. We're doing random searches now. I sent that out earlier this year. So they're random. That is like a deterrent. But the truth of the matter is, you're in high school in America. Our high schools are a microcosm of America. Just like drugs get into America, drugs get where? Into our high schools, and we have to deal with it. And I tell people, people think, oh, you got a weapon in the school. Listen, America is full of weapons. And where do they often bring the weapon from? Home. And so we just have to have a strategy to mitigate that and hopefully discourage young people from doing that. And when we see some trending upward, we try to make sure we mobilize resources, et cetera, to address that. It's just ongoing work. Some weeks are better than others, some months are better than others, some years are better than other years, but you never get it all done, because when you think you address it in one area, life has a strange way of throwing you another curveball.
And I guess I've been in education, I started in 1982. So addressing your issue and about the schools and the drugs and the behavior, the crime period. My concern, and this is my involvement, and I started 4 years ago with Commissioner Hambrick, because one thing, and I want to know, even when we go back to professional development for administrators and teachers, are they learning how to integrate behavior, connecting the dots for the students that is connected to academics through their pedagogy, through content that would address some of the things of the school community, which spills out into their homes and in our larger communities, which comes back to the school. And what I mean by that, an example that I noticed, that students, high school students, were throwing trash. They're just dropping trash on the school grounds. They might have eaten something and just dropped it. And as a community, I would ask them to pick it up. They looked at me and kept going. But I also noticed that trash would be there all day, but no adult to me, no principal, custodians, no one was letting these kids know, this is not how this is your community. No one is talking, they just let them do it. That's part of, to me, instruction. Even if it's social studies, this is how civics, that we have to teach the whole child. So in addressing this, and I say that because in order for us to get a good name, that's what I mean, our students are going to be the ambassadors. And that's my concern, are we educating the whole child? And how are we going to do that as a community?
That's a good question, and I think that is the question, how are we going to do it as a community? I can tell you that clearly I know it's being done in some schools better than others. You know, you can go from school to school and you can tell when it's being done. You can tell when it's not being done. And so our goal is to take full advantage of the opportunity. That's why we now have a student advisory, because I want the students to become the ambassadors. I think as in my role, I can see how I can help that by engaging the young people more, using the social tools, and you know, it's amazing how I guess they're not different from when I was their age, where you know I enjoy talking to my principal or getting involved and talking to the superintendent, etc. And so I think the more we do of those type of things, I think the messages will get out there. I think we'll see a sense of pride in our community and our schools as we move to higher levels of performance and we get the word out. I think all of that will converge to create that effect. My role as a superintendent, working with principals to ensure that, first of all, I expect buildings to be clean. And when I walk on your building, if I walk on your building this week and saw a piece of paper, and then I come back a week from now and see the same can, that's a problem. You know what I mean? Or if I walk into your building and all the buildings have glass, and a lot of them have glass in the front, and then it doesn't look like it's been cleaned in months. Come on now, don't we pay people to do that?
But the conversation I'm having with these principals, you may have to train them how to bring the students in, everybody to be a part of this.
I agree. But that's the work of the principal. You create that type of culture. This is our home. We protect, we take care of our property. We take care of each other. We work as a community. And so I think that's a part of that, creating that high-performing culture. And that's what we're expecting of our principals. That's just, to me, that's the role of a principal, working with teachers and parents and PTAs to create that type of culture.
That's good, and they have that. There are a lot of great components, and I am so impressed and filled with joy to hear you, Dr. Beasley, as superintendent now. Because these are things I've been asking about. Like I said, I retired from education from after 32, 35 years. So, and it has changed from 1982. I started with crack, okay? So, I've gone through all the cycles. But for me, my community is important to me. And these children are important. I chose not to move out of Clayton County when everybody else got up in 2005 and 2007 because we can't make a positive impact. So I trust you, and I think that's what we have to build again in our schools and community for for our community, is trusting it.
I agree, and I think it has a lot to do with our schools and the success of our schools. It's all related, and that's why we're working to bring in all the entities, all the governments, and commissioners, and the mayors, and everybody to the table, because it takes a community effort. Having, and our parents, they've got to do their part, like all of us, children, see trash in the kitchen, don't wait till I get home to take it out. You know what I mean? You see something, pick it up. It takes all of us a collective effort. And so I think if you go start visiting our schools, I think you'll see, I even sense, as I visit schools from when I first came into the county in July of last year, when I visit some of the same schools, after having some conversations with some principals and some expectations, there's a difference. I can tell you there is a difference. There is a difference that I see in these schools. And I mean some of the schools that when I walked in last year, I wasn't impressed at all. I wasn't impressed because I've run a large high school, several large high schools, but you wouldn't know students were in the building because they were in class, getting lesson. And so I don't accept excuses why we can't get kids in class. If I have a team at a school that can't get kids in class, then that is not the team that needs to be. Does that make sense? And that's just the expectation. You got somebody who can keep the building looking good, to show respect and dignity for one's community. I just think people deserve that. You know, we put a lot of money in these facilities. Taxpayers, those of us who buy. You know, we want them to look good. We want them to be well kept. And so, yeah, we have a responsibility as a school system. Students have a responsibility, but I think it has a lot to do with leadership. Setting the tone, being an example, setting some expectations, and ensuring that there are some procedures and processes in place to bring and to establish that culture of high expectation.
Dr. Beasley, just to go back to the career pathways, I'm excited about those, and especially the firefighter EMT, because as a city, we accept applications year-round for those positions as well as certified police officers or police officers. So I'm glad to see that that has been added to the career paths. Another question I have, what steps are being taken to address the students that consistently have behavioral problems?
That's a good question. What we've done this year, of course, we have our code of conduct. Everyone should be adhering to the code of conduct and following the code of conduct, and administrators and teachers using the code of conduct to address behavior when it's inappropriate. I would answer your question by saying, in addition to the code of conduct which is in place, we've identified all of the young people who are basically, I would just say, 2 or more years behind. That's one group that we're identifying to come up with some solutions and supports for those students. And oftentimes, those academic issues are coupled with discipline issues. And so we're working to support them. We're also working to be creative in our options for students. I'll be very honest with you. We've got some kids who are just 16 in the 9th grade, and they're not just 16 in the 9th grade, but they're just discipline issues, being disruptive. And so we're working with our principals in our alternative school and our open campus to extend to them some options. But some of them just need to go to work and then go to school so they can help their families out. And so we're providing some creative scheduling opportunities for them to get their education, but we're also finding some employment for them so they can add some value and purpose to their lives. We're seeing right now a reduction I've had from this year alone. We've had a reduction, when I compared it to this time last year, we've had a reduction in over 1,000 OSS, ISS days. And so we're seeing improvement, but I think because we're working very strategically. So we're using the resources that we have. We're working to ensure that sometimes that they get the additional support. You know, it always goes back to learning. Kids who struggle with reading, can't read, don't experience that success. It's all related oftentimes. Disciplines, sometimes you think it's the discipline issues that come first. No, sometimes it's the academics, lack of success that basically serves as a springboard for the discipline issue. And so my commitment is to ensure that all of these kids are getting the support that they need so they can experience success. Kids who experience success, they want to experience more success, they're less inclined to do some of these things that cause them to get suspended and have to go to the alternative school, etc. And so we're working to, as I said earlier, purchase a reading and math tool to help those kids close those gaps. We're working on, I mentioned earlier, the social emotional learning, helping them to get the coping skills that they need, and then the adults the appropriate response skills, so we can help kids navigate successfully these situations and not make them bigger than what they need to be, and penalize the students for the rest of their career. So we're working to do that. I think that the work is, it looks a little different. It's the same on every campus, but it looks a little different depending on the school and the number of students that we have to address. Principals are doing a better job at monitoring student performance so we can avoid or preempt some of these issues from occurring. K-12. We're working with our parents. We're calling parents in and basically sharing, you know, here's where the child is. And so let's talk about some creative options. Realizing that you all, that every child is not going to be successful in a traditional high school setting. And so we're trying to create various options to help the students be successful.
I was involved with a program once where they were trying to steer the wayward males. And so what they ended up doing is they reached out to the community, and different businessmen ended up more or less like adopting a male, you know, and so then they ended up, you know, having you know, they would come and visit them at school, and they would have to answer to them, and anyway, it had a lot of positive results.
Well, we're good, and that's why we're expanding our mentoring, and we're working on the My Brother's Keeper, President Obama's initiative, to expand that here in our county as well, trying to get our kids connected to those positive male and female role models. And so we're working, you'll see some second semester, because we're planning this semester. You'll see our county we're going to do a countywide My Brother's Keeper initiative for the first time. And so you'll see that more to come in that area. But we're doing, and that's all of those things that you mentioned that I shared. It's part of the strategies. No one strategy. It's a toolbox, if you will, of strategies that we're working to address and fix our situation.
Will we be able to go on your website to find out the purpose for the different splashes, like Splash Live?
Yeah.
Because I want to be more knowledgeable if I'm going into churches in Clayton County to explain to those people, and I'm at that age, that don't have children, they pay taxes. I'm like, you know, I'll add the children in here, so why do I need to pay taxes?
You can find everything about the current SPLOS as we develop the timeline for the SPLOS 6 referendum and the projects. You will see that information as well. But if you go to the district's website under construction, everything is right there. I want Jada to show you, we provide quarterly newsletters so you can see what the progress is that we're making. So Jada, open up the most recent quarterly newsletter. So we did one this summer, and we'll be getting ready to do one this fall, so you can see the progress that we're making. And so again, once we finalize the timeline for SPLOS 6 referendum and then the project list, you'll see all of that information as well. So you can see what we have there for the most recent newsletter. But it's all out there. We try to, and I really believe in transparency. I don't think there's anything I do in this job that's private, other than protecting student data and their situations. But this is our work. This is public work. Okay. So please use that advantage and get the word out that it's out there.
I have a quick question. I've had most of my experience as a site manager working with the 21st Century Learning Communities Grant. and I did some work in Atlanta Public Schools with that particular grant. And I noticed that we were able to make a lot of connections between parents, students, and communities through the after-school program. And we were really successful in those schools that actually had good relationships with after school, because most parents are available during those times of days. My question is specifically for middle schools. Are there any challenging or need areas that you see specifically in middle schools where vendor-type organizations or after-school programs can fill the needs of those students? I know we spoke a lot about the pathways within high schools, and a lot of times when you get these organizations, they are quick to start programs within elementary school. But what are the focus areas for middle school students?
Right now, that's an area we're working on, because that's the gap in our district. We have no middle school programs, after-school programs. And so one of the things that I'll be doing is I have a team right now who's working to develop options for not only the summer of next year, summer offerings, to engage our students, but also to develop options for middle school after-school programs. And so we're just looking at a variety of options, program options, maybe some internally provided, maybe some externally service provided. We're just trying to see where we are, what funding is available, etc. I will be working, I've already reached out to Jonesboro City, and I'll be coming to Forest Park and others, because I want the cities, if they can, to support those programs in their cities for the middle schools. And so we're working to close that gap. Again, as you stated, elementary, they have after-school programs. The high school kids have a variety of things that they're doing. It's the middle school kids right now, they're just basically just out there left on their own, that they're unstructured, unfocused, and you all know when you're unstructured, unfocused, and unsupervised, you know what happens, don't you?
Dr. Bees, I am glad to hear that initiative will be taking place. That was a concern when my daughter was in middle school at Rex Mill. But what I find out is that the community centers, the recreation centers, they had an after-school program. And so the van would come and pick them up from Rex Mill and take them up the street to the Rotenizer Recreation Center. So maybe that's another partnership that can be looked into as well.
And that's what the team is studying, to see where are there some after-school programs, because maybe we're not getting the word out to our parents. Maybe there are some current programs. We just got to do a better job of getting the word out and connecting our kids and parents to those programs. So we're looking at that as well. So thank you.
Good.
And then the library, I didn't mention the library. The library, you know, they have after-school homework centers at all of the libraries. So I mean, I consider that an after-school program where kids can go to the library and participate in their homework centers and focus on their homework. It's a safe environment, right? But they have STEM activities. They have so many different activities at the library. So I think just getting the word out to our community and encouraging people to take full advantage of all these resources that are currently in our community that are underutilized, honestly.
And I, mentioned the recreation centers, but even though they were going to a recreation center, the director made sure that they completed their homework first before they could participate in any activities.
And we're at, with our faith-based initiatives or advisory, we're asking churches to do this very same thing. So there are options. We just got to make sure that our parents are aware, whether it be the recreation center, whether it's at the school, if we have an after-school program at the school, whether at a church or at the library. There are programs out there that our kids can get connected to.
And are there connections for like one-on-one tutoring? I know you mentioned that online program that you already get started.
At the library, we have tutoring offered at all of our schools throughout the year, but the library also has some resources where the kids can go in there and get tutoring as well. And they can do that right there at the library. That's where they like to go and get tutoring as well. I'm looking right now at a resource where kids can maybe log on, but they can get access to a face-to-face or a real person to help them. So we're looking at those type of resources as well. But as you all know, all of these things take funding. And that's why I think it's important. I'm trying to work to establish partnerships and get our educational foundation back up and running so people, I can come up with ideas and to address the need, but you need funding, right? Okay. Any others? All right. So I think it's based on what the questions, sounds like we're working on the right work, right? We just gotta, this is our first year, we're gonna get it out there and you'll see. And I think that's the goal, is to be in a better place every year. A better place every year, not having, as I share with the staff, not having the same old conversation every year about the same old thing being wrong. What are we doing to improve the outcome, improve the situation? How are we working together to ensure that if it's an issue this year, it's not an issue next year? Okay. You all know Mr. Spiva. He's our chief for engagement, governmental relations, and partnerships. So he, along with others, are working with us to ensure that we establish the right partnerships that provide the support that we know our students need in order for them to thrive and excel and achieve higher levels of performance. Well, I think that covers it for today. Hopefully, and if you all have any ideas, you can email me or you can email Jada and her team. Feel free to email any of us. And we appreciate the work. I will be coming around visiting the cities to have some conversations about. I'm going to focus on the middle school. I just want right now to kind of narrow their focus because that's where the gap is, middle school, after school programs. And so if you are connected to organizations or governments and cities, just let them know I'm coming, because we want to start next year with our middle school students having a plethora of opportunities beyond the school day to be engaged, to be safe, but to work on their academics and even to have access to social events and things of that nature that will help them be better young people, better people. And so we'll be working on that as well. Okay.
One last question. As a community, governmental advisory council, what would you like for us to do to continue to assist the school system?
I think one thing is, as we always inform us as to areas that we need to be working on, that's always helpful. If there are issues going on in the community, help us to figure out what they are. If we're seeing an uptick in issues coming from certain communities, let us know so we can figure out how to mobilize our resources, maybe safety and security. Maybe we need to be more visible as kids are walking home from school. We just discussed the after-school programming. Let us know, and of course, working with the cities and government that you have influence with to partner with us, even if it's just a donation to help us pay for teachers to be there with the kids. It all matters. It all helps. That would be great. I think sharing the good news, the events that are going on, getting the word out to our parents. Sometimes, like, we have our platform, so when we send things to you, I'm learning that all the cities and governments have their own platforms. Using your platform to get the word out there, that is most helpful to us. Even like when we had the winter, the storm. We got it out there on our platforms, and then Sheriff Hill got it out there. He had over 50,000 people on his text messaging platform. That just helped close the gap. And no one could say they didn't know. And so using those platforms to get the word out about these innovative ideas and programs and offerings that we're working on, and once we start communicating them, letting people know, take full advantage, because it takes all of us. And I think if nothing else, as the adults, we got to ensure that the kids are taking advantage of these opportunities. So I think those would be a few things that I would request of us, helping us, keep advising us, giving us feedback. If you know of things within the various organizations or governments or cities that you work with, get that information to us so we can make sure that we're using that information to inform whatever actions we need to take, sharing the information that we share, with the various constituents that you have is most helpful. And always sharing good things, the positive things that we're trying to do, letting us know what the challenges are, clearly, of course, so we can always proact and resolve issues so we don't keep talking about the same problems from year after year after year. Is that fair enough?
That's fair enough, and I would like to commend and thank you for hosting the various community meetings and organizing the different councils. And as I stated earlier, I am a strong supporter of the school system, and so my initiative or my goal is to go back and reach out to my colleagues, the other 6 cities and delegation, and say, okay, the next time there is a governmental relations advisory meeting, we need to be on board and we need to be here.
I think all of that helps with that coherence and us getting on the same page. And our goal is not to hold you long, so, and we don't do it every month, we do it strategically, so if you could bring someone and others the next time you come, that would be great. Okay. Thanks everybody, we enjoyed it, very informative.